Hey, Michelle, you know how Pothos is like the most ubiquitous houseplant?
Yeah.
Probably the most beloved houseplant out there.
Beloved, yes.
You know, it wasn't really discovered by Western horticulture until the 1880s. And if you think about it, that wasn't that long ago for a plant to be so established in the hearts of houseplant owners everywhere.
No, it wasn't. That is kind of where did it come from? Do you know?
It came from Southeast Asia.
Okay. I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of fleshy. I can see that.
And, if you're old like me, when you say the 1880s, that seems like it was just 100 years ago, even though it's getting closer to 150 years ago.
Wow. Okay, Justin, because you're so old. Okay. You're like, I
I know,
remember
I know.
back in the 1880s.
I'm older than the dirt under my fingernails.
Oh wow, Justin, poor guy. Somebody please like comment on this and give Justin some light encouragement that he is not like that. Poor guy. Well, that
All
is an
right.
interesting fact though. Thank you. All right, guys, welcome to Plant Prescription, a podcast by Costa Farms, where myself and my friend here, Justin Hancock, answer some of your questions about plants, maybe go over a couple of myths, maybe sneak in a couple of bugs here and there, and just generally have a great time. Right, Justin?
Right. We hope you are enjoying all of our chatter about plants.
Yes.
We
So,
have
what do we have today?
Yeah, we have three exciting questions today. The first one comes from Karen, Savannah, Georgia. She wants to know how to keep her English ivy happy because it never seems to love its life in her house.
I have so many things to say about English ivy, and I know you do too. Um, I am well, I guess I'll start with my not opiniony recommendations, taking Michelle's English ivy experience out of this and just straight up. English ivy, from what I have seen, doesn't really like to be dry. And so making sure that it doesn't get too dry would be a good start. I don't think it would do very well in like deep shade. So I would try to give it some light. But that being said, from my experience with English ivy, they are pretty what is the word I'm looking for? Adaptable. So I would start if your English ivy is having a lot of if it's just unhappy, maybe kind of give it the queen treatment for a little while. Maybe put it in a window that gets morning light, and make sure it doesn't get too dry for too long. I think that, in my opinion, in my experience, I found that they can handle a little bit of overwatering more than they can just like a complete dry down. So just be aware of that. I'm not recommending you water a lot, but just don't be afraid to maybe water too much. I think it's better to err on the side of like not letting it dry down too much in this scenario. But that's my experience. I haven't had much English ivy inside anymore, so I don't have a lot of indoor experience with it. What's your take, Justin?
All right, Karen, since you're in Savannah, one thing to think about that might be a factor is that English ivy, unlike a lot of our houseplants, is actually native to Central and Eastern Europe, and so it prefers cooler climates. So if you have a lot of hot nights in your house, especially if you're not using like air conditioning, for example, that could be setting the plant back. Another thing that English ivy is exceptionally known for is being a magnet for spider mites. If you have any spider mites in your home and you bring in an English ivy, they're going to find their way to it straight away. And so it might not be that the plant is unhappy as much as the spider mites on it are very, very happy.
I can't believe I didn't mention that. I have a one-track mind when it comes to ivy, and surprisingly enough, the mites did not come up. Justin's absolutely correct. In production, when we have ivy in production, they will always get preventative mite mites. They'll always get preventative biologicals to prevent the mites.
And happily, the biological predatory mite cocktails that the teams use are pretty effective at stemming the or at not stemming at whatever the word
Stopping.
is at yeah
Yeah.
stopping the populations from exploding.
Yep, they are. Yeah, they really, we just, it's funny you mentioned that because we see ivy and we think mites and we just get them on there, whether they actually have two-spotted spider mites or not, they get predatory mites to prevent that from becoming a problem. And knock on wood, it's worked very well so far. Grr. Okay. Is that all you have to say about ivy, Justin?
From a factual standpoint, yes,
Okay.
but I can't wait to hear your opinion.
Oh, you're gonna make me go first? Oh, okay. All right. Well, this is Michelle's opinion. Let's just make sure we keep it at opinions. I loved ivy when I rented an apartment. I had ivy as a houseplant when I rented an apartment. Now that I am a homeowner, um, I have a different relationship with ivy because I have some in my yard and crawling up my house and all around the house that I have not been able to eradicate. I have sprayed it, I have ripped it. I have my neighbor even where we're struggling to recover a tree that's covered in ivy right now. And my neighbor even put bleach on it. Um, we cannot get rid of this ivy. And so now my opinion has changed of ivy, and now that I'm kind of fighting it, I have a different opinion of it. But from what I can tell, it's very, very, very good grower. If you keep it in a pot and put it outside in the summer, it'll do very well for you.
Yeah,
Too well.
outdoors, it's a phenomenal slash overly phenomenal landscape plant, to the
Mm-hmm.
point that it's actually banned in the Pacific Northwest. You can't buy English ivy here. It's a state noxious weed.
Yep.
And like Michelle, I am battling it in the landscape. And one of the things that makes it tricky is that any node that breaks off has the ability to root. Small pieces of roots will regrow as well.
Yep.
And then if it's established enough, it blooms, which, for an invasive plant, you'd want it to have better blooms, but it doesn't. It makes little fruits that the birds love, and then, the birds drop the seeds everywhere, and so you have all of these new crops of ivy coming every year.
Oh boy. I've never seen ivy blooms. That blew my mind. So,
Remind me to send you pictures in a few weeks.
oh, okay. Oh, yeah, it's coming, huh? Okay.
So Karen, you're not alone. But we hope that our tips for ivy will help you have a better experience with it in your home.
Yes. Yep. I'm sure you can do it. I believe in you. I believe in you. Okay. I had to. Sorry.
All right, question number 2. This one comes from Sam in Forest City, Arkansas. My pothos is doing very well. I saw pictures of bacterial leaf spot online. How do I know if I have that, and what do I do about it if I do? And Michelle, this one is all you.
um, okay. So bacterial leaf spot or bacterial blight probably is what you saw for pothos. And that's a pretty gnarly condition. Like if you see photos of plants with bacteria, you're like, hachi machi, that looks horrible. It really is. It's one of the worst things. And it's very, very difficult to control. Um, so it can be very challenging to identify if something is bacterial or fungal. And this is something that we struggle with a lot. But there are some tips and tricks to kind of getting to the bottom of it in a quick and dirty fashion. So, if you think that your pothos has bacteria, most of the time, from what I've seen, pothos bacterial wilt is what you're going to be seeing. So the plant's kind of melting on itself and turning black and just gooey. And when you think bacteria, think ooze and goo. We're gonna get in a little
We
second.
we
Okay.
we we don't always cover the glamorous parts of houseplant life here at Pet Prescription.
So yes, bacteria, ooze, and goo. The symptoms they can look very similar to something like Phytophthora, or there's fungal leaf spots out there as well, where the symptoms can look the same.
And for
But
those of us who are not professional IPM managers, what do those symptoms look like, Michelle?
well, fungal leaf spot is just a brown, depending on the plant, could be brown, could be purple, there could be some like orange and yellow in there. I mean, there's just a colorful array of spots, but essentially it's a brown, eventually brown, black, necrotic spot on a leaf. And necrotic being like a dead spot. And then Phytophthora is another one that's really hard to describe because it really depends on the plant again. In the terms of Pothos, Phytophthora is really gonna probably start at the roots and work its way up. So it's going to look wilting. And most Phytophtheras, it'll kind of look like it's wilting. And then it'll also, as it kind of goes under stress, it'll develop those dead necrotic lesions and low like spots and things as well. It's hard to describe all of them again because the tricky thing with pathogens is that every single plant it could have, if you have a pothos versus like a petunia, the symptoms of one may be different than they would appear on the other. Every plant, not every plant, but a lot of plants show symptoms in different ways. So it can be tricky to identify some of these things. But at its core, if you're trying to look at is it bacteria or is it fungal? First of all, if it is bacteria, you want to get rid of it because it's really hard to treat bacteria. But the way you figure that out is if you have a clear glass um, at home, anywhere, clear, it has to be crystal clear. You have to be able to see through it. You can fill that glass up with water. Take a piece of saran wrap or a little plastic lunch baggie, really anything that you can find, and a rubber band. And you kind of put the plastic baggie over the cup and secure it with a rubber band so that there's a tight film on the top of it. Then what you do is you kind of puncture a little hole in there, and you take your infected plant and you cut it where that like black spot is. And you want to cut through that spot and then immediately stick it through that little hole that you made. It may have to be a slit, whatever it has to be. If it's a leaf, it may have to be a slit. If it's a stem, it may have to be like a little puncture hole. You stick that leaf in the water, and then the purpose with the saran wrap is to hold that leaf still. You don't want to move it. You want it to hold still. And then try to place it in front of something bright, like a bright window, not direct sun coming through the glass at you. You need to be able to look at the glass without going blind, but some sort of bright backdrop behind it. And you just watch. Watch where that stem is or leaf or cut leaf or whatever it is, whatever part of the plant. Watch that submerged in the water. If you see goo or like little tendrils of stuff coming out of it, there's a very good chance it's bacteria. And that is bacterial oozing, is when you cut something that has bacteria and you put it in water, it's going to flow out. So, one way to tell if it's bacteria on any part of your plant is to do that. Um, and if it doesn't do that, it should do it pretty quickly. You're not going to have to wait. Like, I would say if you wait more than 5 to 10 minutes, you're waiting way too long to see this. It's probably not bacteria. It should happen pretty quick. Um, so if you see that, it's probably bacteria. And if it were me, I would just say, say a prayer, say, Amen, RIP, maybe give it a little ceremony and just, you don't want that in your house. You can recover a plant, but it is very difficult. And I mean, it requires, you're better off taking a cutting, maybe. I don't want to say that. Don't even try. Because there's a lot of things that could go wrong. It's very, very, very difficult to get rid of bacteria when it's there. So I would just move on. Another quick and dirty way, sorry, I got one more quick and dirty way to tell if it's bacterial or not. This is if it's a leaf spot, Particularly, it's not as easy with like if it's coming up from the stem section, but if you see spots on your leaves and you want to see if it's bacteria, another way other than the water oozing, it's called a bacterial stream test, is what we just reviewed. Bacterial stream test, if you want to do more research on that. Um, Another way to tell is to kind of hold a leaf up. This time, hold it up to like a fluorescent light or whatever light fixtures in the room or sunshine. So just hold it up. Make sure you're like not having your eyes in the sunshine, and look through that spot. If it's like shiny and oily looking, there's a good chance it's bacteria. If it doesn't look shiny, it could be fungal. And another thing to check with leaf spots for fungal leaf spots is to look on the undersides and the tops of the leaves and try to find if there's little tiny spores, like little tiny black things. They could be really a whole bunch of colors, but if there's little tiny spore looking things on that spot, it could be fungal, or fungal could be a secondary byproduct. Who knows? It's very complicated. But if it's shiny, oily, maybe bacteria. If the bacterial stream test, if you see stuff oozing out, probably bacteria.
In your experience, Michelle, how common are bacterial versus fungal diseases on pothos?
So I don't grow. I'm not a grower of the pothos. I'm more on the flower annual side. Um, I think that they're up there, because if you look at college, pathology sites, they've got the FSU and FIU and UF and all the Florida universities I just named off, NCSU also. There's a lot of other universities out there. But when you look for pothos diseases, um, the bacterial comes up as one of them. But again, it's pretty obvious when you have it and it's pretty severe. I imagine it's pretty quick. Um, so I don't know, but they did, if you do search, it is one of the ones that comes up. So I don't know of any huge issues with that. But again, I don't grow that. So it is not my crop.
Okay. I haven't seen bacterial on pothos before in real life. So, I'm inclined to think it's not as common
Yeah.
as it could be.
I think what normally happens with bacteria is, especially in a large scale production like Costa, if we see bacteria in the crop, typically we'll kind of pick up on it in the young plant stage, when the cuttings are rooting. And if we see it, we get rid of it immediately to prevent it from getting into the rest of the crops. So that's, again, I haven't heard of any big catastrophic bacterial issues around pothos. Maybe there have been some here and there, but we typically wouldn't carry that through. We would get rid of it because you don't want to keep that around. Same thing for homeowners. You don't want to keep that around. Odds are it's probably not, though. I see, but if you are concerned, that would be a good way to test for it.
Excellent. Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah.
All right. On a more positive note, question number 3 today, Shelby in La Crosse, Wisconsin asks, what are the easiest houseplants that I can grow for flowers inside?
Ooh, the one that comes to mind immediately is begonia.
Oh, I had a different one that came immediately to mind.
What was that?
Anthurium.
Oh, it's kind of funny when I think Anthurium, I think of like the
Of course
boring
you do.
Anthurium plant. But you're so right. The Anthuriums with the big red blooms. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Spats.
spats. Yep. There we
Aha.
go.
See, yeah, we were on the same page on that one. What about Hoyas?
Yep. Hoyas are another good one.
Hoyas? I don't have any, but I've heard the flowers are fragrant.
Yep, they are in a lot of species. You can
Orchids?
also, yep.
I'm sorry. You go. I'm just firing away here.
There's also most of the gesneriads that we commonly see. So African violets,
Ah,
Columnia, Asianthus, that whole group.
I understood African violets, and that was it. I don't know
Okay.
the rest of them. Okay.
Um, Common names: lipstick vine, goldfish plant.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, yeah, the goldfish. Yeah, that would be a good one. What about, going off of goldfish, bromeliads?
Yep, certainly.
Okay.
You don't see them a lot. I'm not sure why. I think they should be grown more frequently, but Streptocarpus.
Which one's that again?
Um, it's African violet relative. Flowers are kind of large, held up on stalks above the foliage.
Okay.
Comes in a whole mess of colors. Really interesting. Some people say they look like orchids, but I think if I say that, I'm going to get in trouble from some of our listeners.
Watching you. I don't know that one, but my last thing while you were saying that came to mind was not typically a houseplant, but my neighbor has one and she's had one for I think a decade inside. And so proof that they can grow inside and flower inside, cyclamen.
Yeah, yeah. If you don't mind the dormancy thing, like we talked about a previous podcast with Caladium.
Oh yeah. You know, she's never mentioned that. But all I see, I just go over every now and then because she finds a bug and I'm her pest person. So I yeah. I only see it when it's obviously there's leaves because there's bugs. So um that's it. I can't think of anything else though.
My last one would be Oxalis.
Yes, of course. That's a good one. Oh, actually, I have one more. I lied. Now that you said that.
Oh, wait. Let me see if I can guess.
It's not a
Nope.
common one. It
It's going to
doesn't
take me too long, and I don't
smell
want
very
awkward
good.
silence.
Okay. Um,
Amorphothalis?
no, I mean, yes, unfortunately, if you're a very unfortunate soul and it flowers inside, that is unfortunate, but it also goes dormant. Uh, I forgot what I was gonna say. L-
Stapelia?
Yes, I was gonna say lifesaver plant,
Okay.
Stapelia. Yep.
Yep.
That one. Also, it's a really cool flower because it's a little lifesaver plant. It's cool. You give me the
Yeah.
look. What's the look for? Like, I
No,
disagree.
no,
It's not a cool
no.
flower.
Well, no, I know it grosses a lot of people out.
It doesn't smell horribly. You have to really get in there to smell that
No,
one.
no, the look of the flower grosses a lot of people out.
Oh.
Um, if you've not seen it, it has a ring of darkish red purple,
It looks
and
like
then
really big lips.
and then, and then the flower petals are a mottled kind of fleshy colored with red.
Fleshy
Um,
colored, yep.
yep, and it's evolved to attract flies both visually and with its scent. So,
Aromatically,
you
yes.
know, yeah. Think of bad meat, but in a nice way, and that sort of bad meat with a lifesaver on it in a star shape.
Wow, you're really talking this plant down. It's not that bad. The flowers most of the time are pretty small and they look like something out of like a video. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Feed Me Seymour. That kind of
Yeah,
big
Little Shop
bulbous
of Horrors.
flower. Yep. Yep,
Yeah.
that's what it reminds me of. Except it doesn't eat. Well, doesn't eat the bugs. No. Okay. All
No,
right.
no,
Yep.
it's not carnivorous.
Nope. No,
All
it does
right,
not.
so Shelby, hope that gives you a lot of nice options for you. Um, all of these plants are going to need highlight. There are really few um, house plants that have attractive, noticeable flowers that tolerate low light, because low light just doesn't give them the energy to be able to produce those big showy blooms.
Yep.
Um, but if you don't have a lot of natural light in your house, you can always augment with LED lights.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Grow lights. There's a billion of them out there now. We should talk about grow lights one time. Anyway, we don't have enough time for that though right now.
All right, should we transition on since you brought the issue of time up and talk about a myth?
Yes, let's do it.
All right, here's another myth that's all you.
Oh,
My plant has soil mites. I need to treat that right away to keep it from infesting all of my other plants.
people, we're gonna get there one day and we're gonna do it together. Not all bugs are bad. Remember that. And it's just like Finding Nemo. Bugs are friends, not food. Hopefully, you wouldn't be eating these. But my point is, one day we're gonna get there where we look at a bug and don't immediately knee jerk kill it. Because odds are you don't have to. And if you try to kill the soil mites, first of all, good luck. Second of all, you probably end up hurting your plant more than anything else. So soil mites. There are quite a lot of mites out there. And there are mites that live in the soil, which a lot of mites we've talked about previously have been ones on the plants, and those are the ones that we may or may not want. Again, take a second look. But the ones in the soil, usually are either neutral or they may be helping you. So there's a predatory mite called hypoaspis. If you want to be correct, technically it's been reclassified and renamed to stradiolalaps. Oh my gosh. I will be a forever hypoaspis person though, because that's how I learned it. Um, so that is a predatory soil mite, and those guys are going to help you with fungus gnat larvae hanging around in the soil, yada, yada, yada. Maybe a couple other things. Really good for fungus gnat larvae, though. And then there's other mites that we don't know exactly what they may be, but if you start growing organically, odds are you're going to see those other mites. And those are probably detritivores, meaning eating dead, decaying organic matter. And dead decaying sounds horrible. I'm not indicating that they're eating dead things in your soil. I'm just saying that they're eating organic matter in your soil.
Which
Not
is
like
what all potting mixes are based on is organic material, whether it's peat, whether it's compost, whether it's core.
Right, exactly. So there may be some fungus in there even too that may be helping them. I don't know. But there's a lot of mites out there. And as soon as you start kind of growing organically, you're going to start seeing a lot of those guys coming in. And if anything, they're kind of helping because they may be helping with aeration in your soil. Um, and as long as you don't see any damage on your plant, um, they're probably fine. They're probably doing either helping you or just neutral, not doing really anything. Um, so if you were to try to kill them, like I said, good luck, because they're gonna be in a lot of hard to reach places. Um, and again, you would need like something like a miticide or, something really hardcore that's not a miticide to kill them. And in the process, there's a good chance you're going to damage your roots. So, and repotting, if you really hate the mites, you could try to repot, but odds are once they're there, they're there. And I hate to say that and be like, they're there forever. But again, they're not really doing anything bad. So
Are there super beneficial mites that will attack the semi-beneficial soil mites if you really don't want them?
I don't know. Probably. I would imagine so because it is a bug eat bug world out there. I would very much imagine that there are native, natural predators of these naturally occurring mites for sure. Something's eating something all the time. Not commercially available that I know of, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there we
Bugs.
go.
Bugs are not all bad. We're going to get there, people, and we're going to get there together.
So stay tuned for more on good bugs and other houseplant advice in future episodes of Plant Prescription from Costa Farms.
Woo!
Happy gardening, y'all.
Bye bye.